Happy New Year, Ghosties. I'm Macy.
And I'm Natalie.
And if you haven't seen, we've already had a New Year episode where we just had a little chat. But this episode, of course, it's Thursday, so that means it's a listener story. Whoop! Yep. The first listener story of the year of 2025.
I like that we're starting the year off that way.
Me too. When it came down to that, I was like, oh yeah, this is perfect.
It feels good.
It's a good start. So since we'll be doing 2 episodes a week for the rest of the year, God willing, we are going to revisit our teas for listener stories. So rather than buying 2 teas every week, both of us already have a stash that is like mountains high.
Yeah.
We're going to revisit some of our favorite teas. So this week's tea is one we've tried before. It's Harney and Sons Paris.
Yep.
It was a suggestion by somebody, and it's now one of my top 3 teas.
Yeah, we really like it. And we brought back the teapot today.
Yes.
I was thinking that the other day. We don't ever really use a teapot.
We should start using it more.
We should.
Well, this one was, I had like a whole tin of loose leaf tea.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a giant tin of loose leaf because I loved it so much.
Yeah, so thank you for suggesting that, but let's go.
So good.
Still so good. It just tastes like an everyday tea.
I also, when I drink it at home, I put a little cream in it, which I know
Really?
you don't really like any milk or dairy products in it. But yeah, a little cream, really good. I got like a vanilla cream. Very good. Also, before we get started, I just wanted to shout out Natalie because she got me this necklace for Christmas.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to buy each other Christmas presents, and we even texted like the day before she bought this. She was like, "So, are we buying each other presents?"
It was not the day before.
I swear it was.
It was not.
And me, Kayla, and Natalie were like, "No, not this year. You know, things just no." And then the day before Christmas, she brings this to me, the little rat. It's cute though. It's really cute. I love it. It's a little charm necklace. It's a moon and star as an homage to our set.
That's the thing, is I knew we weren't getting gifts, but it felt like such a big year for just everyone in our family. Our sister Kayla had a baby, so I got her something dedicated to the baby. We have had a really good year on the pod. I had to get you something for the pod. Our little brother, he just wanted something, so I got it for him. And so yeah, I don't know. It just felt right.
So we hope everybody had an amazing holiday. Let's get into these stories. Our first one is from Dani. Hello, I'm Dani. I love hearing your podcast at work. It makes my desk job much more entertaining. So thank you so much for that. I wanted to share my story with you in case you found it interesting enough to include in one of your videos. Now on to my story. When I was very young, like 4 to 6, my mom worked as a babysitter. Our house was constantly full of children of different ages and interests. Therefore, I would take it upon myself to find things we could all do. It was a summer morning and super warm out, so I decided that we could play hide and seek indoors as it would be cool and safe. We were a group of 6 kids and everyone agreed they wanted to play. We used rock, paper, scissors to figure out who would be the one searching. I won right away, so I knew I would need to hide. Once the kid who would be searching was selected, we all went our own ways to find where to hide. As a child, I was super small, like the smallest in my whole kindergarten class, and super flexible, so I knew I could easily find an area to squish myself into. While thinking of places to hide, I thought of the space between my bed and the wall, since my bed was not fully flush with the wall, as the base molding trim spread out quite a bit.
This already has me feeling panicky.
I quickly squished myself in there, making sure to not mess up my bed so that I would not be easy to find. The way I ended up posed was in a sitting position where one of my legs was fully under the bed while the other one was bent in front of me. It was pretty comfy, which made me happy as I knew I could wait there for a long time. Minutes passed, and I remember laying my head on my knee in front of me, listening to everything, and thinking that I needed to use the restroom. As I was debating if I should quit hiding to go to the restroom, I felt a giant hand wrap itself around my calf area and pull hard.
No. And I was gonna say, every time I've ever played hide and seek in my life, I have to pee instantly. Why?
Really?
What? Yes, do you not?
No.
That is always like a thing, is like as soon as you're hiding, you have to go to the bathroom right now.
That's unfortunate.
I think that's like a thing.
I immediately looked down, ready to scream at the kid tasked with searching, as he had been so rude in telling me he found me. To my complete shock, I saw nothing. Absolutely nothing. Since it was a summer day, I could see clearly under my bed, my room's window right next to my bed, illuminating the whole area. I was pulled out of my confusion and shock when I could still feel the hand pulling me. I looked down at my leg and saw the indentation of 5 giant fingers on my skin. To this day, I'm not sure how I managed to do this, but I quickly used my free leg to kick in the direction where I believe the hand was coming from. I remember feeling a kind of barrier, kind of like when it's super windy and you're pushing yourself against the wind, on my leg. As soon as I hit that barrier, the feeling of the hand holding me disappeared, and as soon as I felt it let go, I ran out of my room. I ran to my dad, who stayed home that day, trying my best to tell him about how I was pulled under my bed, but he was too preoccupied with a soccer match on the TV and brushed me off. I then ran to the restroom, locked myself in there, and cried my eyes out until my mom came over to check on me to see what was wrong. This is the thing that awoke my love for everything horror and paranormal. I have not experienced anything as big since then, and honestly would like to experience something again, as with age, I've become much more skeptical. Hope you enjoyed, and congratulations on your podcast/YouTube. Can't wait to continue listening to it as I work. Your sub, Dani.
Thank you. But how, after something like that, do you become skeptical?
I don't know. I guess with time it fades, but that is terrifying. They could see where the hand was grasping their leg under the bed. I can't imagine that initial shock. Like, you're just kind of resting, waiting, and you think, oh,
they
it's my
found me.
friend. And no one's there.
What were you gonna do if you got me under the bed? Like, what happens after that?
Why do you always ask that?
Because I want to know
the worst.
Like, the motivation is like, is it just to freak you out? Is it to actually get you under the bed? Is it to actually harm you?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't like thinking about why.
I
think
have
the
to.
action is enough. That the why scares me more.
You think so? I don't know.
Because if it has a motivation, if it has intentions,
Mhm.
I don't know. That just... Ugh.
But I would like to know the motivation. That makes me think, does the thing ever get you? You know? Because we have all these stories of like, oh, it almost got me. Oh, I was pulled, I was hit, I was pushed, you know, things like that. Has it ever gotten someone and we don't hear the story?
Maybe.
And if we don't hear the story, what happens to them? Do they disappear? What
become
happens?
possessed or something crazy?
I've always thought about that. What's the after of all these stories?
Guess we'll never know.
I hope not.
Unless you have an after. So if you have an after, message us.
Please.
Our next one comes from Stephanie. Hi, I found your page this past weekend and binge watched a lot that I found interesting. Most of them, LOL. Love your videos. I have a few paranormal/alien/dreams below. In middle school, we had just moved houses. My sister was between 4 to 6 years old. I was in 7th grade. It was in a not so good neighborhood, so we were always inside. I always felt not alone in that apartment. My parents would leave me while going to the store, so I would be home alone. I would hear dishes clanking, cupboards opening and closing. I was watching TV in my parents' room. The hallway light was on, and I was sitting with my back against the wall. The same wall the door is on. And I see a small shadow from the hallway walk up and stop before the door, standing outside the door where I couldn't see anything but the shadow on the floor. Thinking it was my sister, I just said, "Leave me alone. Go away." While watching the shadow, I noticed that it faded away, not walked away. So I went downstairs to see if she came up. My dad said it was just me and him home. We moved soon after, and I finally told my mom. She said she would hear the same as I did, but didn't feel like it had hurtful intent, so she would just say, "Go ahead, just don't bug me." It would sometimes just randomly lightly push the trash can or toys around her, and she would say the same thing each time.
Interesting. I was gonna say that's probably best that she didn't know, and she did like the perfect thing to say, "No, leave me alone. Get out." And it's a good sign that they were like, okay.
Yeah, they're
sure.
Like, all right, I'll fade away.
It feels to me just kind of like a spirit of someone that lived there previously or something.
Yeah,
you know, it doesn't feel scary. And the fact that the mom's like, "Fine, just leave me alone," and they're like, trash can push.
Yeah, little things. I agree. I thought the same thing. A dream I had while in high school. I dreamed I was in a baby walker, walking towards someone who looks like an older version of my dad, walking out the door to his car, and I was trying to follow him, but I couldn't make it out the door because of the walker, and him seeing me and laughing walking back. Later that day, I told my mom. She said that's the exact thing I did when I was in my walker trying to walk outside after my grandfather.
Aww.
I was only a little older than 1 when he died. Not sure if it was memory and I just had a dream about it, but I can't remember anything else before 5 years old. I thought that was really sweet.
That's a cute one. I love that one. I
Even
thought
if it's just a memory, just coming back to her, just being able to see her interacting with her grandfather.
Yes, I have 2 things to say about this. One, at first I thought it was going to be, and years later I had a baby and then this happened and she was like seeing it through the baby's eyes. Second thing, I am so fascinated by memory and like deep memories that we hold that we don't even know we have.
Yeah, and how to like access them.
That is something which I don't know. We've talked about it before, like with hypnosis and things.
And that's what I was going to say. That's why I'm interested in hypnosis
But
or
I'm
anything to access hidden parts or locked parts of your mind.
Yes, but at the same time, I'm not, because of all the content I consume. I like a lot of true crime. I like a lot of things like that. I fear that because I consume so much of that, I would create something in my mind, like something bad happened to me and it didn't really happen. And then it would make me freak out. But I would love if there was just some way where I could be like, I'm only going to access my memories and like bring them to the front.
I think there was a That's So Raven episode where they could like watch their dreams. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember, but love That's So Raven.
And I always wanted something like that where we could, I don't know, use dreams as a way to, I don't know.
Yeah. I would like to rewatch my dreams. I've been having
Some of them.
really vivid dreams lately and like weird ones.
Every summer, I would spend it with my family members who lived in a small town. You can only get there by plane or boat in summer. They had a cabin 15 miles out of town. We would spend most of the summer there, and it wasn't too big, but there were enough beds for our grandparents, my aunt and uncle, and my 5 cousins, and their friend or friends on some occasions. Basically, beds filled the cabin with 2 tables. Since I was closer to one of my cousins who slept on the bottom bunk, I slept next to her. It was almost the end of summer, and I was going to be a junior in high school. A close family friend came to visit during the day, and she had her 2-year-old son with her. We all loved watching him and begged her to let him stay one night. She let him stay, so me and my cousin, who I still slept next to, decided to let him sleep by us. We ended up sleeping sideways on the bottom bunk, where it fit him, but our legs were hanging off. I would play music on my iPod with my headphones in before going to sleep and put it on sleep mode to turn off after 2 hours. I woke up in the middle of the night, I think when it was darkest. I checked the time, 3 a.m., but felt uneasy. I laid there and my cousin was holding the boy between us while facing each other. I noticed no one closed the curtain behind her and was thinking about getting up to close them when a bright light just turned on above the window outside. I froze. Couldn't see what's on the other side, but this white light shining down, not into the window like someone trying to look in, but above the window, because it had no movement, just shining. To get that high, someone would need to use a ladder. I didn't move my head, just my eyes to the window a few feet to the right of it. No light above that one. I'm not sure how long it was, felt like hours until I finally could move, but the only thing I could move was my foot. Still scared and the light still shining, I slowly moved my leg towards my cousin until I felt hers and I started shaking my leg. Just before she woke up, the light turned off and I could hear a subtle whoosh. She, seeing me terrified, asked what's wrong. I just said, please close the curtain behind you and just hold my hand. I can't remember if I fell back asleep, but I remember holding her hand the rest of the night until my aunt's alarm went off to go to work. I asked if I could go back into town to stay at her house and I never slept out at that cabin again. I get chills just recalling it.
It's crazy that this happened at such like an old age, like almost a junior in high school.
Mhm.
So you're not a fearful little 5-year-old. You're basically almost an adult.
So your imagination isn't running wild.
No, that's what I'm saying is like you are more likely to be skeptical or be more fearless. Do we think it's aliens? Do we think it's a robber? What do we think?
Well, hopefully not robber. I don't know if it was like you'd have to use a ladder to get up above the window like that. And she couldn't see where the light was coming from. It was just above the window. So was it over the house and it was just shining over the window?
And if it was, what were they doing?
I don't know. What, like inspecting? She never went back to that cabin again.
And I wouldn't either.
No?
I would not. I still get freaked out over my 1 or my 2 alien experiences down our road to get to Mom's house.
In that same spot?
Yes, I get freaked out, even in the daytime. Like when did we go? Thanksgiving? I was driving down like, oh, don't look, just trying to face forward because it freaks me out.
Wow.
Because I don't want to see anything else, alien-wise, by myself. And also, I've never been afraid of aliens or, things like that until that story where Betty and
Barney Hill
freaks me out now.
Really?
I started thinking, I'm like, yeah, because I used to think
I
I would want to have an interaction. Not anymore. Because they just don't
think
remember.
I'd want to be taken.
No, I wouldn't want to be
like
taken.
seeing them, like, hello, far off into the sky, that's fine. But no, I don't really want to come face to face with a extraterrestrial.
If I saw them, but they didn't see me. But for some reason, I feel like if I saw them, they would know.
They could see you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a little creepy.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't really want to interact with that just yet. But I mean, I said that about all things paranormal at the beginning, so maybe I'll flip
But
this
like
year.
by the end of the year, you're like, please abduct me.
No.
I'm just kidding.
No, but yes. As long as you bring me back and don't like take any of my like body
Organs
parts.
or
Yeah.
You just have like a list. Like they wake you up in the night and you're like, actually, hold on. Sign this.
Yeah, this is what you can and can't do. Yeah. As long as they'll sign the
waiver.
Yeah, the waiver.
This happened last year near the same town, but we were told stories growing up about little people. They would be like leprechauns or fairies, I guess, to outsiders. They live on the tundra. Some can let you see if they want you to. Most of the stories are them being tricksters. If you go looking for any, the evil ones will know, and you will come across an evil one. Some people occasionally would accidentally see them, or the little people might be asking for food or water. There are some stories where they are trying to lure you to follow them, getting your attention with whistling or whispering or gestures. My encounter happened when we were berry picking. It's a spot we've been to for years. We go back every year to the same spot. Mind you, I'm older now, so some spots are overgrown. This day there were at least 8 of us. I was picking and got carried away and noticed I was a little far from everyone. If I stood up straight, I could see the others, but when bending over, no one would see me. I continued picking and noticed the birds stopped, and I couldn't really hear the river nearby anymore. I didn't feel the wind either. but the bushes were swaying. The closest feeling I can describe is being in an airplane. The only thing I can hear is the bushes rustling at the bottom of a hill where it looks like a shallow cave. I brushed it off and continued, and I decided to make my way back up to everyone. After taking a few steps, I heard a low whistling coming from that spot. My heart was pounding, and I tried to look as normal as possible, bending over to get some berries, trying to make sure I didn't let it affect me walking back. The noises came back, the wind, the water nearby, the birds. I got a few steps away from my mom into whispering distance, and I let her know. Soon after, she had me tell everyone, and we decided to leave.
So the whole family believes this is a thing.
Yeah.
I get such a primal scared feeling when they're like, the birds stopped.
When
the animals
all
stopped.
noise cease.
Yes, because you know something bad is there. And
Yeah.
I don't like it. It makes me feel scared. And then now, this podcast has scarred me. When we talk about caves, I think about that Mimic story where the person's like dad,
Their grandpa or something
was down there like,
Maybe it was
oh,
dad.
come on.
Over here.
I don't trust it. I don't trust it anymore at all. I don't like the idea of caves. I have this mental image that I've created for that story, and every time you talk about a cave, I'm right back in that story, and
man.
freaks me out.
Well, I love stories about fae of any kind.
I know you do.
I don't know why. I have such a connection to it. I love it. But I don't know that I'd ever want to encounter one, just because you never know. Like, what if they're the bad ones? What if they're the ones who are meaning humans harm? You know,
that's one thing I think I don't think I'm ever gonna flip on wanting to encounter something like that. Not necessarily believing, because I'm like 70-30.
Okay.
30% believing.
Oh, okay. 30. Okay, so 70% skeptical.
Yes, about most cryptid things. Except for skinwalkers. I believe in those full of heart. Sorry, I said the word.
But those are people.
I believe that.
Well, those are people who use like a dark magic.
Yes, I pick and choose. But the fae and fairies and things like that, I'm like,
I just want to believe.
I know you do.
I love the idea of a magical little species. Well, I guess not all of them are little, but like something hidden. I love something hidden in nature.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I think that's what kind of ruined it for me, is whenever we did the fairy episode and you're like, yeah, no, they're like full grown people.
Yeah,
like,
some of them.
I was thinking Tinkerbell, Fern Gully. I was okay with that. But once you said like, no, they're like 6 feet tall.
Some of them, yeah.
I'm good. I don't want to believe that. That's too scary.
Understandable.
That's too powerful.
Understandable.
I want something I can like kick.
Okay.
You know, if it bothers me, I want to be able to like to punch it.
Okay.
And if it's like a 6 foot man, yeah. But if it's like a 6 foot man
who can use magic and is invisible,
what am I going to do then?
Nothing.
So
there's nothing you can do.
I think I just don't want to believe. Okay, we're getting off topic, but that's cool. That's a cool story. I like that one.
I'm glad you didn't go to the cave.
Me too.
This next one, your paranormal games episode. So this is still Stephanie.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure if it was just a game going around where I lived or if it was everywhere else, but it's called 3 pennies. You just need 3 pennies. You can play by yourself or multiple people. You can only ask yes or no questions. You cup the pennies in your hand and shake, like dice, and toss above the table or floor. You ask if you can start the game. Whoever is playing needs a yes from the pennies. 3 heads equals yes, 2 heads, 1 tail, maybe yes, 2 tails and 1 head, maybe not, 3 tails, no. You can start asking the yes or no questions and then tossing and shaking the pennies. When done, each person playing needs to ask if they can be done playing until each gets a yes. If you lose a penny, one rolling away, hopefully you have an extra one. I can't remember if you can't stand up during the game or if we were just scared to get up while playing. If you don't ask to stop and just stop playing, whatever you were talking to can follow you or get attached.
Oh no, I've never heard of this.
Me neither. I've heard of something like it.
It's like a Ouija board, but this is interesting.
I've had small things happen, mostly noises or feelings. My grandma said to speak out loud. You are not welcome. You cannot bug me. If you're religious, you can put in the name God or Jesus Christ. If the feeling doesn't go away or happens again, I say a prayer, then usually it stops. My mom and grandma are huge on using holy water and prayers when you feel the energy is off. Thank you for reading. I'm looking forward to more of your videos.
I need to know if people have played this game, and now I need to know more.
Yes. You know what?
I kind of want to play.
No.
To me...
You can play with someone else.
Okay, not you.
Not me. Reaching out and contacting, maybe you're talking to a spirit, maybe not.
See, but my thing is, though, there's a reason I can't play it, actually. I just thought of...
What?
If I didn't get the answer I wanted, I'd be like, this is fake. So if I was like, am I going to get everything I ever wanted? And it said no, I'd be like, this isn't even real. And I would put the pennies away and walk away. So I couldn't play something like this.
Well, I think we're going to do another Paranormal Games episode because I'm so interested in these games.
But you know what is really weird? Last night I had a dream, and it's so weird that we're talking about pennies because in my dream last night, I found like a heads up penny in my yard, by the way, like on my little sidewalk. And I picked it up. I was like, ooh, heads up penny. And I was looking for 1999 because that was the year I was born. That's what I always look for. And I'm like, ooh, this is a real lucky penny if it's my year. And on the penny, it was nothing but nines. Like there were just nines everywhere. I don't know what that means, but I had a dream about that. And now we're talking about pennies.
This does seem strangely connected in some way.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm always looking for things like that.
All the nines on the penny? Is it just because that's what I wanted to see? My mind's like 1999, 99999. But
interesting.
In the dream, I was like, heck yeah, lucky.
Someone
to interpret my dreams, and I would also like someone to read my like birth chart. Someone commented the other day, oh, Natalie, is your Neptune something something? And I was like, I don't know, what does that mean? And they didn't respond back. And I'm like, what does it mean? Help. I need to know. I'm very interested in that stuff.
There are a lot of astrologers out there you could reach out to.
I know.
You could pay people to do your birth chart and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's too expensive. I'm not sure.
I don't know. And like, I wouldn't know who to trust, but I would like to know all of my things. I'm sure I could easily find it. I could probably Google it, but
probably, but to know the meaning behind it, you kind of need someone to interpret it.
So if anybody wants to do that, let me know.
Our next story comes from Ashleigh. Hey again, I'm currently watching one of the pods and figured why not send in a few short experiences that I've had in my childhood home as well. To preface, all of this happened between the ages of 8 to 15 when I left. My first experience that I vividly remember was when I was still in elementary school, which is crazy that I remember that far back, but it's probably because I had and still have no explanation for it. Anyway, it was early morning, maybe 5:30, 6 a.m., and me and my siblings were all getting ready for school, and I was walking down the hallway to my brother's room, which had all our clothes in it. This particular day, it was all in a huge pile on a table. As I entered the bedroom, I heard a deep and grovelly voice sort of growl out a, quote, "meant you," into my right ear. Thinking it was my brother, I whipped around, but no one was there. I remember running out of the room and being scared to go back in there for a while. Like, were they wanting her?
I don't know.
Either way, a growl into an ear.
I don't like that it was growling.
Not good.
I can handle a regular voice or maybe a whisper. A whisper's a little bit scarier, but a growling voice?
Another experience I had was actually experienced with my younger sister and younger brother. To set the scene, we had a one-story house that you'd enter into the living room with two open doorways, one into the dining room and one into the kitchen. The kitchen and dining were one room with an island separating the two, and the dining room/kitchen if you kept walking straight. To the right of the kitchen was the garage with a glass pane door to enter into. If you continued straight, you'd be welcomed into our playroom, which was 2 steps down from the dining room. To the left of the dining room was a hallway with my brother's room first on the left and my parents' next to theirs. Across from my brother's was the bathroom, and across from my parents' was mine and my sister's room. I know that was a lot, but please bear with me. The layout is important. Anyway, we had just gotten home from school. Me and my sister were in middle school. My brother was in elementary. And we went to the kitchen to make an after-school snack. We were crowding around the counter, filling up our trays with popcorn and all of the toppings, when all 3 of us looked up at once and saw a figure walking down our hallway from my sister and I's room and go into my brother's room. All 3 of us looked at each other and bolted out the front door, popcorn and toppings flying everywhere. We didn't go back inside until our mom got home. She had to pick up our older brother, and neither of them believed us, but we knew what we saw. We still talk about it occasionally. If I were the brother, I don't know if I'd be able to sleep in there that night.
No.
I'd go to my sister's room or my mom's.
We would all be sleeping in the same exact bed.
Yes.
Cuddled up, tightly packed as sardines. There would be no different bedrooms now. Imagine as a mom coming home and your kids are like, we've been waiting outside for you. We can't go in the house. Are you going in?
I don't know. I'd be like, okay, well, let's wait for dad.
Yeah, but like, what if there is no dad? What if dad is at work? What if? So now what? What do you do?
I don't know.
Do you call the cops and risk feeling stupid? Or do you just go in?
Probably. Like there's somebody in our house.
I have this big fear.
If Jake wasn't there, yeah, I'd call the cops, I think.
I have a big fear of, one, just like kind of feeling stupid, and also like calling the cops for it to be nothing.
Better safe than sorry.
Sorry, off topic again. But I would hate to like waste people's time and call the cops, but I feel like I would have to.
Much better safe than sorry.
Very true.
If I were a police officer, I would rather mom and their kids call me to just check their house instead of not calling me and they go in and something terrible happening to them.
Very true. Very, very true. But then that brings us back to, I would like to hear first responders' ghost stories.
Yes. Another sequence of events that my sister and I constantly encountered was scratching on our walls and knocking on our window. We had about a 15-foot difference between our window and the ground as our house was on a hill, so that never ever made sense to us how someone could knock on that window. But for years we would hear a consistent scratching and knocking on and in the walls of our bedroom. We also saw a figure standing behind our bedroom door, and both of us thought it was our older brother scaring us because he went through a phase of it after finding out we were experiencing things. But when we said out loud that we saw him and he couldn't scare us, the figure didn't move, just kind of stood there, swaying slightly behind the door. It was nighttime and dark, so I ended up getting up to really show him that we saw him, but when I got up to the door, no one was there. My sister had been watching from her bed the entire time, and it is consistent with the fact that she saw the figure standing up there until I moved the door. Freaky as hell. I also used to get sleep paralysis in that room a lot and would see a demonic creature thing crawling from our closet towards our beds. One time when we were settling into bed, I turned to face her bed and saw a black mass standing on the edge of her bed, and it jumped off and towards me. I can't imagine the fear and terror of it like leaping towards you in bed.
I'm really scared.
I remember screaming, and she had no idea what I was screaming at and even made fun of me by mimicking what I did. She jumped from her bed towards me going, roar, for weeks after that. But no one else in the house heard me screaming, which was odd because we shared a wall with my parents.
And that is so scary to me. I don't like that.
Why is it that people always get sleep paralysis in haunted homes?
What do you mean?
Like, I always hear stories of, we've had a few, I don't know if they're coming or what, but of sleep paralysis stories of, like, I had a haunted house, and in this bedroom, a lot of crazy things happened, and I always had sleep paralysis here. And then when I moved, I never had it again.
Because I think sleep paralysis is paranormal.
Like, I'm like 50-50 since we did our sleep paralysis episode. Like, maybe it's something that the brain does. But after hearing more sleep paralysis stories of, like, it only happened in my haunted house, there's got to be a connection somehow. Like, our astral bodies are, there's some, like, paranormal connection there.
I think so, mostly because I used to get sleep paralysis so much when we lived at mom's house. That's when I would get it all the time. Now it's like, I hate talking about it because I feel like it brings it on me.
I'm so sorry.
But it doesn't happen very often, like at all anymore. So it's like, I think it is mostly paranormal. But I could go back and listen to our sleep paralysis episode and completely change my mind right now. So I could be lying.
Also, me and my sister and my brothers would switch rooms every once in a while. And this happened while we were staying in my brother's room, the room from the first paragraph. We had bunk beds, and she had the top and I had the bottom. But we'd also switch every once in a while. Anyway, she was on the top and was always a heavy sleeper. But once we moved into this room, she would start complaining that she couldn't sleep at night because I was pushing up on her mattress, which I did used to do. But as a little kid, not at this age, we were 12 and 14. And I'd tell her many, many times that I wasn't doing that. I'd rather stay up reading or be sleeping myself. She didn't believe it until one night when we were getting ready to go to sleep, and she finally snapped and yelled at me to stop kicking the underside of her mattress. But when she leaned over the edge and looked down, I was dead asleep. She had to wake me up and beg me to tell her I was the one doing it, but I wasn't. After that, we switched, and she slept on the bottom and me on the top, mainly because I didn't really believe her. Like, I did, but I didn't, because no way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wrong. We ended up having to separate our beds and didn't sleep bunk bed style ever again because it was happening to me too.
I was going to say, what if it started happening on the bottom? You feel something pushing up from the floor.
That just gave me chills on the right side of my face. And to leave you off with a banger, one time we were eating dinner. It was hamburgers. I remember because we had just been grilling on our back porch. Anyway, we were all seated at the dining table when all of a sudden, me, my younger brother, my stepdad, and my sister all saw a tall figure standing on our back porch at our back door. Thinking it was one of my brother's neighborhood friends, my stepdad got up to see what he needed, and we all watched as he got up and walked to the back door. But when he got to the door and opened it, there was no one there. Not a single trace that someone had been there. And it was so odd because our playroom had wraparound windows, so we would have seen him walk off. But nope, just no one there. My stepdad brushed it off and kind of refused to believe it, but we all knew what we saw. To this day, I always wonder and contemplate contacting the new owners of the home to see if they'd had any experiences or if it was maybe possibly something attached to our family. I hope you enjoyed and had your socks spooked off.
Contact them immediately. Give us the address.
We'll call them.
I will send them a letter.
I want to write letters this year.
I have to know. Also, why is it that in this house, everybody is seeing the thing? It's not like I kept seeing it, everyone told me I was crazy, or my sister kept seeing it.
Everyone's had an experience with it.
And it's all together, though. Like, the siblings all saw it, and then the whole family.
The stepdad, too.
But we're all seeing it, and we're actively reacting to it at the same time.
He got up to open the door. He got up to say, hey, kid, what you need?
See, I love the thought of having a lot of windows, but then when I think about things like this, I'm like, a concrete cave.
Yeah.
No windows, no doors.
You know what? I like the idea of everyone sending us the address of your childhood home, and we just write letters to them like, hey, you still haunted there?
Imagine.
That would be
if you got
so
a letter like that, would you respond? Or would you be like, how do you know where I
be
live?
like, what do you mean? Tell me everything. Yeah.
I'd be scared.
So yeah, send us the address to your childhood home. Our next story comes from Abby. Hi there. I recently just started watching your podcast and wanted to share a story with you that I don't tell a ton of people, as I'm not sure if it was demonic or not. And if someone else wasn't with me, I would have thought I made up the entire thing. When I was attending a Christian college up in the Adirondacks in northern New York State, I had volunteered to help clean the campus up before the start of the first semester. There was a small group of us who had been picked to help. This specific campus also hosted summer camps for kids. And as we were in the process of cleaning out the dorms, we were being housed in the cabins on the south side of the campus on the edge of the woods and across from a lake. This is really the first time I had spent any amount of time away from home by myself, and I was adjusting to being alone. I was in a cabin with 4 other girls, all of which I did not know, and the cabin next door housed guys. I didn't know anyone, but they all knew each other from having spent their summers at the camps. This was during the summer of 2020. So when my cabin mates wanted to run to Walmart, I stayed behind due to my parents' wishes. I was on my phone with my sister a couple hours later, roughly 7:30 p.m., when the sun was just starting to set, when I heard someone come up to the porch of the cabin and saw someone's shadow on the other side of the frosted glass window. I told my sister I had to go so I could see if the girls needed help with bringing in anything, as no one had actually come into the cabin yet. Now, the porch was very creaky, and it was quite obvious when someone comes onto the porch and when someone leaves the porch. I didn't hear the person leave the porch, but at the same time, from what I could tell, no one was actually still on the porch. I got this feeling that was telling me something was not right, so I called one of the girls who had gone to Walmart and asked if they were back. She told me that they had just left Walmart and wouldn't be back for another 45 minutes. I quickly explained the situation, and she said that one of the guys had gone to Dollar General and to drop one of the other guys at a friend's house nearby and may have just gotten back. I called the guy who had gone, we'll call him Cal, and he had just driven onto campus when I called him. At this point, I wasn't too freaked out, but for some reason, I was really nervous. Something wasn't right, but I couldn't tell what it was. Cal told me to stay in the cabin and he would be there in a minute to look around. Of course, I didn't listen. I looked around outside until he came and he scolded me for not listening and that I could have been kidnapped or something if someone was out there. I remember just sitting down on the porch steps as he stood on the paved area at the end of the steps due to him not technically being allowed up on our porch or in our cabin. We were chatting and had almost waved off the strange situation when I got this feeling in my gut that I was being watched. I looked up at Cal and he looked uneasy and pointed to his cabin's large curtain-drawn windows facing us. A full shadow, the shape of a man, was standing in the window watching us. I had basically jumped off of the porch and Cal had bolted into his cabin. I wasn't about to stay outside in the now partial dark by myself, so I scrambled to follow him into his cabin. I started opening closets and checking under the bunks to make sure no one was hiding while he searched the large bathroom at the back of the cabin. He came back out just as I checked the last closet. His face was so pale. He grabbed my arm and basically dragged me out of the cabin into the main part of campus. I didn't have time to start asking questions as I was trying not to lose my footing as he continued to drag me. Something had scared this 6'4" athletic guy so badly, I wasn't going to stop to ask questions. Once we were at the main campus, we sat at a picnic table and caught our breaths. He then explained that no one was there. He had just dropped one of the guys off at his friend's, and the other guy was sitting in the cafeteria of the main campus with his girlfriend. He then explained how he had encountered a shadow man once before at his job back home, and the one we saw looked identical to the one he saw charging at him at work. Until then, I hadn't ever seen a shadow man, but since then, I will not sleep in cabins. 4 years later, and I would rather go tenting when my husband and I go camping than spend the night in a cabin that I have no idea what its past is. Some of my other friends that I made within those next 2 years have said they have experienced things similar in those cabins. Sometimes the places you think are the safest from the paranormal have some of the creepiest encounters.
I want to know, is it attached to those cabins? Or is it attached to that man?
To Cal? Yeah. Because it charged at him at work.
If I saw someone looking at me from my cabin and there was another cabin, we're going in the other one. They charged into the one looking for the man.
Well, because she had seen the person on the step, or so she thought. So they were like, okay, well, they're messing with us. We're going to go in. I don't know. I wouldn't do it, but I could see a 6'4" large man. Like, okay, you're not messing with us, going in and doing that.
I just feel like, paranormal or not, there are too many options for it to be something really bad.
So what, you just wait for your friends to get home and check it out?
We would just run. Or we go hide in the other cabin.
Yes, but then...
And we would all sleep in the one cabin.
They technically weren't allowed to.
That's horrifying.
Our next story comes from Sarah. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I just want to start off by saying I love your podcast. It gets me through my long office work days and just in time for spooky season. This was sent in September.
I would like to say though, since this is the second person to say it gets them through their office job, I feel that, and that makes me feel so happy that people listen to us during their office jobs, because I would
Yeah.
do the same thing.
Me too.
And on some days, it was like, I don't know how I made it through today.
Me too.
And so that makes me feel very
I would
like,
always have a YouTube or a podcast playing
mm-hmm.
at work. So I have a story that doesn't belong to me, but my mom has told it to me and my family and friends for years, and it still gives me chills to this day. For some background, I'm the youngest with 2 older brothers. My mom used to live in Laredo, Texas, which, if you've been there, you'd know that it's very close to the border of Mexico and known to be very, very haunted. When my mom was pregnant with my oldest brother, she and her mom, my abuela, used to take long late-night walks along the paseo. There used to be a large water gutter near the neighborhood and a lot of toads harvested there, so my mom and abuela loved walking near it just to hear the sounds. One night in particular, my mom and abuela were out for a stroll, probably around 11 or 12 at night, when they heard the sound of a woman crying.
No.
It wasn't an ordinary cry either. It sounded like a super loud, extremely pained wail that could only be compared to that of someone who had just endured something awful or was in immense distress.
We're too close to Mexico for this.
My mom and abuela both silenced themselves, startled and confused, and looked up ahead of them. That's when they saw a woman in front of them, who they were sure wasn't there before. She had long, dark hair and was wearing what I guess could be described as a tattered dress and apron. She was facing away from them, but it was apparent she had her face buried in her hands and was sobbing uncontrollably. This isn't the first story like that, where someone's parent had encountered a woman like bent over sobbing in her hands. We had one where their dad was young and was riding his bike in the rain, and he stopped off and he saw her down by the river.
That was in the La Llorona episode, wasn't it?
I think so.
Because that's who it is.
My mom and abuela didn't say a word as they were so thrown off by the sudden encounter. They were positive that no one had been walking on the sidewalk with them, and yet here this woman was, appearing out of nowhere. After a while of just waiting and watching this crying woman, my abuela nudged my mom and nervously said to her in Spanish, "Look at her feet." My mom looked down at the woman's feet and noticed she didn't have any. In fact, she was floating a good few inches off the ground.
Oh no.
I'm sorry to ruin this. My first thought was a Bratz doll. She didn't have any feet. I'm so sorry. I had to, but
hate that you said that.
To think of a floating woman like that, knowing that it's La Llorona, is so scary. Sorry, bring it back.
I'm so mad at you because they just popped her feet off.
Yeah. In complete shock, my mom and abuela stood as still as stone as they watched the crying woman float further and further away from them until they saw her turn left and disappear. Literally phase right through the wall of an abandoned house just up ahead. Once they gathered themselves, they continued walking to see if they could find the woman. As they approached the house, they noticed that the front door was boarded up and that there were porch steps leading up to it. They never saw the woman walk up the steps or open a door of any kind, so there's no way she could have just disappeared in there. Needless to say, they never took late night walks around that area again. To this day, my mom shakes with fear when she tells the story, and I think about it every time we visit family in Texas. Word to the wise, if you hear crying at night, no you didn't.
Amen. Nope. Amen. Also, it made me feel so much better when she said they were floating. She was floating away from them.
Yeah.
Because what do you do if she's coming at you?
Jump in the water and swim away.
Into the water? No.
Away from her, anywhere.
That's horrifying. It's always more like, it's always a scarier story to me when it comes from someone's parents.
I know.
I don't know why it feels real when it's like your mom telling you.
You know what? I agree though.
Like, I believe you.
100%.
Yeah.
Our next story comes from Ava. Hello. Before I get into my spooky house, I want to say how much I enjoy your podcast. You guys are so fun and I love spooky things and your podcast is the perfect mix. Thank you. Anyway, here's my spooky experience. When I was younger, around 8 years old, me and my mom moved to an apartment. There was an older woman who lived there before us and she kept candles and crystals in every window. And when asked why she did this, she said, and I quote, "to keep the evil out." Now, that in itself was spooky, but we continued to move in.
You know, I feel this woman. I always felt like I was meant to be the strange old lady on the corner. You know what I mean?
I do.
Do you see that for me?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
No offense, but
no,
yes.
but I see that for me.
I picture you
A little cottage
upstairs,
yeah,
like in a nice old apartment with like crystals and candles and like
and some chihuahuas.
yeah,
wearing
a few
my
little
moo-moo.
weird dogs.
Yeah, have to be wearing the moo-moo.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad we both have the same image for your future.
It's who I really am deep down.
When we first moved in, I heard stuff move and saw black figures in the corner of my eye, but my mom always told me ghosts aren't real. The longer we lived there, the more I saw and heard things. Since I was young, I had toys and my grandma was a collector and would give me and my cousins porcelain dolls that she thought looked like us. I was creeped out by these dolls and always kept them in my closet. When I would go to bed, I would make sure my closet door was closed because it creeped me out. but every morning I would wake up and the door would be open and the dolls would be moved in the closet or dragged out of the closet and would terrify me. Something's pulling her dolls out of the closet at night.
I hate it. We've talked about dolls.
Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night to a little girl giggling and running, and I would cry and run to my mom and sleep with her. I assumed the little girl was the one playing with my toys. As a dumb kid, I took matters into my own hands and decided to make a homemade Ouija board. Not my brightest moment.
No.
I continued to play the Ouija board and tried to contact the little girl. I lit a candle like I saw in the movies and started to ask questions. The board piece never moved, but the lights would flicker, or something would move or fall over when I asked questions.
It's not a little girl.
I asked her how she died and the candle blew out and my lights flickered. I screamed and ran to my mom. Sorry, Mom. After that, I never tried to talk to her again and let her do her spooky things by herself. I still heard and saw her move things and mess with stuff around the house or hear my name whispered, but tried to ignore it until we finally moved out. Years later, I asked my mom if I was just a kid or if there was actually something there. She continued to tell me that she had stuff happen too. She said one night I was staying the night at my grandparents' house and she was home alone. She was trying to go to bed when she heard my toys moving around and a little girl laughing. My mom, being half asleep, thought it was me and yelled for me because I should have been asleep that late at night. And then it hit her that I was not home. She then saw a little girl run past her door. She freaked out, closed her door, and put on a comedy show and hid under her blankets for the rest of the night. And that's my spooky childhood. Thanks for reading. I have so many other spooky things that happened in that apartment and other places I lived in, but I figured this was spooky enough. Stay spooky.
It definitely was.
Her mom seeing it. That is so freaky because I can picture myself like half asleep, like go to sleep. You're supposed to be going to bed, and then wide awake because you know your daughter's not there.
Do we think?
And to make it matters worse, she just like darts and giggles past her door.
Is it a real girl? Do we think?
I don't know.
Playing with the toys.
I want to say yes because nothing else
happened except
as far as we know.
Yeah.
It just wanted to play at night.
Why at night?
The only other thing that really freaks me out is that it would whisper her name.
Yeah.
This next story comes from fake name Alice.
Oh, okay. I like that name.
Hi, my name is Alice, and this story took place around 4 years ago. For some background, my dad recently passed around 5 months ago, so he was alive at this point, but it took place shortly before his first stroke. I would get dropped off at his house every morning before school, and this day I was walking up the driveway and his phone was just sitting on the ground for some reason. Something told me to just leave it there, so I did. Almost every morning when I got there, he would be in the shower, and this day wasn't any different. But for some reason, I saw him just walking down the hallway. It was just an all-black figure, but I knew it was him somehow, so I called out and told him his phone was outside on the driveway. There was no response, but he walked into his bedroom. Moments later, my dad walked out of the bathroom and said hi to me and asked if I was okay because I was pretty freaked out. I told him his phone was on the driveway, and I found out that he had lost it the night before, and he didn't know how it had gotten there.
Excuse me?
That wasn't the only experience I've had. I've had a couple with my dad. I'm not sure if this is considered paranormal or not, but when he had his stroke, I had a gut feeling telling me that he had a stroke and was in the hospital. I knew this before his wife even knew. And the morning I found out he died, I woke up to my mom coming into my room, which isn't super unusual, but I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "He's dead." This was before she was even able to say anything. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's insane. We've had a story like that before. I don't think it was the listener stories, but it was where that girl, it might have been, where that girl had a dream that her dad was sick or having a stroke or something, and she went to his house and he was having a heart attack maybe. Yeah. There's
some backstory on me and my dad. He was always my best friend and everyone called me a mini him, and I always knew when something happened to him without being told anything. I have never had a gut feeling about anything being right except when it came to my dad. My best friend died my sophomore year, and after I became super close with his mom, and I go to her house every year on the anniversary, which is All Hallows Eve. I sleep in his bed whenever I go over there, and both me and his mom have caught him multiple times just standing in a corner watching us as we talk about him and talk to his ashes. The first time it happened, I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. I found out after he died, his little siblings would swear at night they were playing with him, which is why they weren't able to sleep. I overdosed at his house 3 years back, and I was scared I was going to die, but something told me that I needed to get up and go to the bathroom. And in there, I heard his voice telling me that everything was going to be okay and his mom was coming to help me, just when I heard that she came in and helped me.
Oh my gosh.
I just got chills.
Me too.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you had to deal with that. And I'm so glad that he was there.
Yeah.
I'm glad he was still there to comfort you in that like very stressful and tough time.
Mm-hmm.
And that his mom was there.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing that. That's really heavy, and we appreciate you trusting us with that story. This next story comes from Gabby. Hi, my name is Gabriella, but I like to go by Gabby. I'm from a family who is part of an Afro-Caribbean religion called Santeria, And due to that, we have always been hypersensitive to spirits and paranormal encounters. So I'll start from the beginning. I live in a home that has always been active with paranormal activity. I was about 8 to 12 years old when my grandfather was diagnosed with cancer, and he and my grandma went to their country for a surgery. I always sleep in their room when they're gone, and on this night, I fell asleep in their room with my older sister. All of a sudden, I start to hear a whisper say, "Hey, wake up." I open my eyes to see a male who looked to be in his early 30s from head to torso, but no feet. I was spooked and turned around saying, "Nope, not today," and hid under my older sister's back. She then asked me, "You saw him too?" I said, "Nope, go to bed."
Okay.
Good. That's probably the best thing she could have done.
I mean, good for you. Nope, go to bed. Period. Good. I wouldn't be able to be that calm.
But why is he there?
I wouldn't be able to be that calm.
Years later, in the room I shared with my 3 siblings, I heard my younger sister call out my other sister's name, asking her, "Hey, why are you standing up?" She proceeded to say her name again, but then my older sister told the youngest, other sister's name, went to mom's to sleep because she had a nightmare. That's when my youngest sister says, "Then who is that standing by the closet?" My sister did a sonic jump onto the top bunk where my older sister, her friend, and I were sleeping. As we laid there, we saw a head full of hair emerge as if it was climbing on the stairs. My older sister shouted, "Turn on the lights, Gabby." I run across the room to turn on the lights, and as soon as I get back into bed, the lights shut off. We screamed for my parents for like 30 minutes straight, but they couldn't hear us. Side note, my mom said spirits can put you in a deep, dormant sleep where you can't hear what is happening. Finally, my mom comes in. I'm having a panic attack as my sister's friend and my older sister begin telling my mom everything that happened.
How do you find the strength to run across the room and turn on the light?
Better that than see whatever emerges.
Again, what would it have done if it got all the way to the top? What was it going to do?
Quit asking that. I don't
I
know.
need to know.
I don't know and I don't want to.
Stories like that make my legs feel numb.
When I was 15, pre-warning, it may be sad, my grandpa and I always snuck into his van away from my grandma because we weren't allowed to eat sweets or sodas due to my grandpa's illness. On this day, he sent me to go get another soda from our secret stash. I went inside, but I first stopped to use the bathroom. When I finally made it to the closet, I see my grandpa laying down in the bed as if he was watching a movie. I asked him, "Abuelo, where is it?" He replied, "It's right there on the right behind the book bag." As soon as he said that, I see my grandfather walk through the door and ask, "What's taking you so long?" I asked him, "Weren't you just in bed?" He said, "No, I've been waiting for you." I told him, "Abuelo, I love you, but you're dying." He told me, "I know, but don't tell anyone. They don't know." My grandfather fell ill 2 weeks later and passed away in July. When he passed, the scariest thing happened to us. My sister said, "Hey Gabby, I saw Grandpa in his room." I said, "Cool," and that night I had a dream where he was on a chair. He told me to come here, follow me. I started to follow, but I felt scared. I told him, "This is as far as I go." And he told me, "Fine, but don't listen to him. That's not me." That is so scary. Like whatever you're seeing, that's not me. That morning I told my mom and we did a spiritual cleansing. My mom said that when I walked up to the mirror, I said, "I see you," but my eyes looked like flames. Mind you, I don't remember this part. I have loads more. Please let me know if you would like to hear more, and I do apologize if it's all over the place and long.
I would absolutely like to hear more.
I'm sorry about your grandpa's passing.
He's not me.
It's not me. Don't listen to him. That's not me.
I feel very uneasy.
Our next story comes from Andrea. "Hi, Macy and Natalie. I just found you guys on YouTube and have been absolutely loving your content, and I wanted to share a couple of my own creepy stories. I have had supernatural experiences my entire life and even have stories from when I was a baby. My family and I have always believed in this stuff, especially since they come from a country where spiritual/supernatural encounters are pretty common. The story I want to share is about some of the experiences I had at my aunt and uncle's old apartment. They used to live on the top floor of a really old building, so their apartment had 2 floors instead of 1. The main floor had the living room, dining room, and kitchen, and the bathroom and bedrooms were upstairs. As I mentioned before, my family believes in the supernatural, so my aunt and uncle have always regularly cleansed themselves and their home. Yet this apartment always had a heavy energy to it, no matter what they did. My family and I had a lot of experiences at this apartment, but these 3 are ones that I remember the most vividly. It was a hot summer night, so we had multiple fans on in the living room, where my family and I would sleep. I woke up to what sounded like one of the metal fans banging on something, and I figured the fan facing me was caught on something or had gotten stuck in the middle of oscillating. I had opened my eyes to make direct eye contact with the little girl I had never seen before. She looked about 7 or 8 years old, had bright blue eyes, short curly hair, and was wearing some sort of dress or nightgown. She was staring directly at me, hitting the fan with her hand as if trying to wake me up. That is just made me almost throw up.
Same. I got okay, stop. Don't look at me.
Staring
Don't look at
in
me.
her eyes.
I can't.
I don't know how long I laid there staring at her in shock, but when I finally forced myself to move, the banging stopped and the little girl was gone. I remember looking over at the clock to see that it was 3:15 a.m., so no one would be up anytime soon. I said a quick prayer, covered myself with a blanket despite the heat, and somehow fell back asleep. The next morning, I told my family what happened, and my aunt said that she saw the same little girl all the time, and that she followed my aunt around in a way a kid might follow their mom. I was about 9 at the time, so it made me feel better to think that maybe she was just a little ghost girl who was looking for a friend. I know that sometimes demonic entities will disguise themselves as kids to gain the trust of the living, and I've had friends raise the question of if what I saw was truly a little girl. I feel confident in saying that she was actually a kid because in the 15 years since that experience, I've been around truly negative entities, and I don't think she was one of them. I think you get a feeling.
I think you can probably tell, especially if you're kind of like into that stuff or like in tune with it.
The next experience happened about 6 months later. We were celebrating my mom's birthday and had a few close friends get together at my aunt's and uncle's. I always sat in the same seat at their dining table, which was the closest to the right end of the table, still leaving space for one more person to my right. No one usually sat in that empty seat since it was right beside where my uncle kept his easel and paint supplies, so it felt a bit cramped. However, on the night of my mom's party, we had to use all the seats and one of my friends ended up sitting in the usually empty spot. Once everyone had left, my remaining family members gathered in the living room to have a little movie night. We had set up an air mattress in between the couches to make things a little bit more cozy, especially since it was the middle of winter. We had gotten about halfway through the movie when all of a sudden the lamp beside my uncle's easel started spinning. It was one of those tall floor lamps with the flat stands, and it looked as if someone had grabbed it and started swinging it around. My uncle paused the movie as we all turned to look at the lamp, which spun for about 10 to 15 seconds.
That's way too long.
No one really knew what to say, and before my uncle could unpause the movie, one of the paintings on the wall began swinging back and forth. It was a medium-sized painting that was hung on a nail, so any movement wouldn't normally cause it to fall to the floor, yet the way it swung back and forth was too controlled for it to have been an accident. My uncle got up to stop the painting from moving, and he realized the spot on the table beside the easel was still set from when my friend had sat there earlier. In an effort to find a reason for what had just happened, my uncle suggested that maybe he had inadvertently given the little ghost girl's seat to my friend, and she was mad that she essentially got replaced by my friend. We apologized and had no more spooky incidents after that.
Aw.
So she was like, that was my seat.
Throwing a fit. That's kind of sad.
Yeah, she just wanted to sit next to her friend. The final story is a bit heavier, and I feel like I should give a trigger warning for DV and suicide. Although the first two stories were a bit more lighthearted, the little girl ghost was a welcome presence in comparison to the other entities that lived in that apartment. The stairs in the second floor had a much more sinister feeling, and my little brother and I avoided them as much as possible. Unfortunately, the bathroom was on the second floor, so we had no choice but to go upstairs a few times to visit. One night during dinner, my little brother, who was around 3 or 4 at the time, had to use the bathroom. He had only recently started going up by himself, and my mom wanted to encourage him not to be scared, so he went up alone, only to come running back down screaming. He was pale and shaking and told us that he had seen a crying man on the stairs. My aunt and uncle went eerily silent and waited until later that night after my brother had gone to sleep to tell us the terrifying truth.
No.
They had recently found out that a man had hung himself where the stairs now were, and it is believed that he was in an abusive relationship with his wife. They weren't sure how long ago it had happened, but they had started to have more experiences with negative entities, one which my aunt believed to be his wife. Even though I wasn't the one who saw this ghost, I get chills every time I tell this story, and my heart hurts for the man my little brother saw.
Oh my God.
That's so sad that he's there and just they could feel his negative energy. Or the negative energy of the wife.
Yeah. That's horrible.
And his sadness.
That's horrible.
That's heartbreaking. My aunt and uncle ended up moving out about a year later when my cousin was born. The paranormal activity had increased drastically, and they didn't want to raise a baby in a place they no longer felt safe in. I still remember the relief I felt the day we helped them move out because I knew I would never have to step foot in that building ever again. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories. Feel free to use any of them in a video if you would like. You guys are awesome, and I'm so glad to have come across your podcast. Stay spooky, Andrea.
Thank you. That was heavy.
I wonder if there's anything that just regular people could do to help him.
I don't know.
Or do you have to call a medium or something in?
What do you do? I don't
even
know.
To like help him realize that he's dead and he should move on and cross on?
Melinda Gordon style? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Because that is so sad.
It is very sad, but I don't know what the solution is
To
for
think that he's sitting in perpetual sadness.
Just sad and crying.
I don't like that at all.
Me neither.
I hope that the next people who lived in that apartment knew what to do. Our next story comes from Lyndzi. Hi Macy and Natalie, hope you're doing well. My name is Lyndzi. I've recently stumbled upon your YouTube channel and have been watching all of your videos on binge and love the content. As a believer myself, here are some spooky ghost stories from my haunted childhood home. I definitely have more, but here's a few for starters. I'm 26 now and I'm an only child, but this first story took place when I was in 5th grade or so, and I vividly remember when this happened. It was maybe 9 or so at night, and my mom and I were watching the Winter Olympics at the time, and my dad, who drives a truck for a living and gets up at weird times in the night to go to work, was upstairs sleeping. Out of nowhere, my mom and I heard a weird noise, so we put the TV on mute to listen, and it sounded like a vacuum. We walked around the house to try to find where the sound was coming from, and I realized it was the shop vac we had in the basement running by itself.
No.
Me, a scared 11-year-old, first thought there's a murderer that broke into the house, and I told my mom as she started going down the stairs to the basement that I was going to go wake up my dad. She told me not to, knowing it may make him mad if we disturbed his sleep for work, and continued down the stairs and turned the vacuum off. No one was down there, and we did have a cat at the time, but this was your typical cold, creepy, concrete type basement, and it was winter in Pennsylvania, so he didn't go down there for hours, as it's where his litter box was. And the vacuum on button on these shop vacs, as you may or may not know, are like rubbery, and you really have to push down hard to turn it on. So that was really terrifying, as no one else could have done it. I know exactly what kind of button they're talking about.
Yeah.
Cat wouldn't be able to do that with just one little paw.
I would have woken up the dad immediately.
I wonder if there's something about basements. Like, basements are always creepy. Is there something about them being underground? Are there certain minerals or something? I don't know.
I don't know.
They're always creepy.
They
are
always scary. That's an interesting thought.
It just came to me. I truly don't know. I don't have any clue, but I wonder what the correlation is to cold, dark, dank basement to paranormal.
I don't know. And the thing is, I've always been afraid of basements, except for there was a period in my life where I wanted a bedroom in a basement from my life with Derek.
Oh, yeah.
That made me want to have a bedroom in a basement. If I ever had a basement, I would want like a gym down there. That's about it.
If I ever had a basement, I'd want like steel locks and
that too.
Bars to hold the door closed.
That too.
It was early September on a weekend evening, and my mom and I were heading to a family friend's 40th birthday party. My dad left earlier that day to go to a hunting camp over 2 hours away. We had a porch light on the back porch where we usually came in and out of the house, and my mom and I remembered on our way home that we both forgot to turn on the porch light before we left, since it was starting to get dark earlier and fall was coming. Well, we pulled into the driveway, and what do you know? The porch light was on. We knew 100% that we didn't put it on when we left to go. And it was an actual light switch to put it on, not motion sensors or anything. So we called my dad to see if he had forgotten something he needed, and drove back home while we were gone and put the light on for us. And he told us that he did not come back. So I guess the ghost left the light on for us.
That would make me feel scared to go inside.
As a little girl, maybe 3 or 4 years old, I would have these 2 reoccurring nightmares. The first was me being asleep in my bed in the corner of my bedroom, and I was trying to get out of my room to go to the bathroom. And it was like my room would never end, and I couldn't get to the doorway because this tall, older woman in a long black dress with gray hair and a low bun was standing there, not letting me out. Absolutely terrifying. That is so scary.
That's the definition of a nightmare.
The next dream was even worse. It was like I was stuck in this underground elevator and everything below was gray and gloomy. Then I would finally get to the top of wherever this was, and it was now colorful, and there was a cute little cottage house with a picket fence and flowers. But then I'd be pulled back down in the elevator to the dark gloominess. When I got older, I read about Dante's Inferno. Look it up if you've never heard of it. And I couldn't help but think something dark in my house was showing me something like this in my dream. My mom later said when we moved out of that house, she found a small pentagram drawn in the cupboard in the basement. And it was rumored that the lady that lived there before us dabbled in witchcraft of some kind, so I wouldn't be surprised. Thanks for reading. I'm going to send some more because I have had some crazy experiences. Lots of love, Lyndzi. She was dabbling in like dark magic of some kind and summoning demons
into that house.
Where was it? Was it the Hill House where the lady practiced black magic and summoned a demon there and like bound the demon to the house in Mineral Wells, I think?
Yeah. That's why I'm so afraid of moving into houses, because
you don't know who was there before you and what they did.
It could be on the boards of the house. Like they could draw or write creepy, scary things. Because I've seen people write nice things, Bible verses, things like that. Like whenever they're building a house.
Oh yeah, like Smith Family 02.
Yeah. What if they're
all things through Christ, that kind of thing.
Doing darkness in the house, monster house.
That movie's scary, honestly.
I watched it the other day and it honestly kind of freaked me out.
That's really creepy. I'm glad your family moved.
Me too.
And that is interesting because I love a good old house.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. Like, what if
you don't know?
They had ill intentions.
I saw a post the other day where it was this family moved into a house where their grandpa used to live. And he had passed away, and they were remodeling something, and he wrote like, "All my hard work gone to bleep and it said his name 1975 because like they're
'Cause they
tearing
were
down
tearing
his
it down.
stuff.
That's really funny.
I'd have to put it right back up. I'd be like, you're right.
This
Sorry,
one
Grandpa.
stays. That's so funny.
It made me laugh.
We have one final story. It's a short one. It's from Hillary. Hello, I just found you guys and I've been binge watching everything. I just watched your dreams YouTube video. I have had predictive dreams for years. They're always screwy though. If I dream I'm pregnant, someone I know is. If I dream someone else is pregnant, I'm pregnant. That only happened twice. Haha.
Only twice.
I also have strong urges to check on a certain person that pops in my head in dreams or awake, and they are usually going through something rough.
I did that all the time.
The most vivid dream I had was a visitation dream I had from my best friend. She was murdered. I'm so sorry. I walked up steps in my dream and saw her sitting in a bed. We used to watch movies in her bed all the time. She looked at me and smiled, reached her arms out for a hug. So I went over and hugged her so tight. I could feel her arms around me. That was it. I knew she was good and that was our goodbye. I will miss her forever. Thanks, Hillary. I'm so sorry about your friend, but that is the most beautiful experience I think to have, especially when you're going through something so hard and like dark times like that.
And
to get that reassurance.
Yeah,
you know?
during things like that, everything feels so unknown. And for you to have that feeling of like, okay,
she's okay.
She told me goodbye. Oh, I'm about to cry.
I'm sorry to end on tears.
No, but that was a good one to end on. That was a positive one, as much as it could be.
Thank you so much to everyone who sent in their stories. These were really good. And they got us thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these were some good ones.
If you'd like to hear your story on one of our episodes, you can email us at ghosteaspod@gmail.com. That's GHOSTEASPOD@gmail.com. It's also written in the description. So if you're the kind of person that needs to see it written out, it's in the description. You can go just copy and paste it in your email. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at GhosteasPod. Like this video if you liked it, share it with a friend if you feel compelled to do so, and subscribe if you'd like to hear more because we've got plenty more stories. But we appreciate all of you being here and we will see you on Monday.
Goodbye.